What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique. I'm a fight guy, Forbes contributor, and also write for Heavy.com, and I'm joined, as always, or as usual, on Fridays, let's say that, by my fellow fight guy, fellow Forbes contributor, and boxing manager of the year candidate for 2019, Peter Kahn. What's going on today?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. And look, I mean, up until this past couple of weeks, and we switched the format up a little bit now that combat sports is in full swing.
Yes, it is.
I mean, we were together quite a bit.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you need space.
I mean, shoot, I still talk to you every day, all day.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm worse off for it, but it's okay. At any rate, we are powered by Fight TV, and we are presented by Bet Online. And if you have not liked this video, you probably haven't. We just started, but you should have liked it already. 60 seconds is usually all I need. 60-second assassin, baby.
That's it.
So go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to jump right on into round one.
So what's going on, Brian?
Yes, it is.
I mean, I'll let you talk about it. I know you want to get going with the UFC, but
yeah,
a lot of changes today.
A lot of changes. There's a lot of changes. This card, UFC Fight Night, Jessica Eye versus Cynthia Calvillo. And the weigh-ins were earlier today, and they restructured the card quite a bit. Well, first of all, before the weigh-ins, Ray Borg had to pull off of the card again because his son has been ill since birth, and he posted a message on Instagram with a picture of his son. He said, "Family first. See you soon, son." So he was leaving to go be with his son. And so he was replaced on the card by Adashev. Haruk Adashev replaced him on the card. And so obviously a very late replacement there. So that's one part of the card that got disrupted. And that was like 2 days ago. Then on weigh-in day, we had 4 fighters actually miss weight. Mm-hmm. So his replacement, Adashev, missed weight, which obviously is somewhat understandable because he came in as a late replacement. It is what it is, but he still will forfeit a portion of his purse. Another fighter that missed weight was Darrick Minner. Darrick Minner missed weight, and unfortunately for him, he missed weight to the point where he actually got ill and had to be pulled from the card. So that is a blow overall, obviously, to him, but it's also a blow to the card itself, because now instead of they kind of scrambled at the end to have a 10 fights, because for a long time there was only 9 fights on this card, but they scrambled at the end to add an extra fight, and now they lose this one, which wasn't even the one that was added extra. So now that fight is off the card because he can't compete. Carl Robertson, this is a crazy little saga that's going on there, because Carl Robertson has been really into it with his opponent, Marvin Vettori. This is the 3rd time this fight has been scheduled, and it's going to go forward. But Carl Robertson missed weight by 4.5 pounds, and that's pretty significant. And they said that there was already some concern as to whether he would, because he was having a tough weight cut. He's going forward with it. He's forfeiting 30% of his purse to Vettori, but this fight was supposed to take place 3 weeks ago. Didn't happen. Vettori approached him in the hotel lobby, wanting to fight in the lobby, upset with Robertson for missing weight and being pulled off the card. This time he's not being pulled. Fights going forward. So there was a very intense stare down between these two today. Also, the Darrick Minner, he was pulled off. He was fighting Jordan Griffin. So that's the fight that will not be on the card. And then the main event. Jessica Eye was the headliner here. She has missed weight for the 2nd consecutive event. And Jessica Eye, I'm going to tell you something, man. It was a really bad, tough scene to watch her. This is her actually on the scales. She was so weakened and sick. She was literally crying on the scale. When she got off, they wanted her to stand and take for a photo op. She could barely do it. She said, I got to go, guys. I can't stand. And kind of had to walk off. Now, we've seen that before. And I've seen Aspen Ladd go through that and looked even worse than her. And she still fought the next day and won. So I'm unless Jessica Ai's body turns for the worse in the next few hours, she's going to fight because that's just the way we've seen. But this is, first of all, the whole weight cut thing is just the most dangerous part of combat sports, as me and you have talked about before. So that's a concern in itself. But I'm going to tell you something about Jessica Ai. Like, she has to be one of the hardest people in the world to root for. She really does. And it really doesn't, it's not about missing weight necessarily, right? Mm-hmm. She's a very defensive person. And I understand that it comes from, you know, she had a really tough upbringing. She had endured a lot of abuse from her dad, you know, physical abuse from her father. And so she had a lot to get through. She's very resilient. She fought through a 4-fight losing streak with the UFC, all of them by decision, to come back, rise all the way up to get a title shot. She did get obliterated by Valentina Shevchenko in Chicago. I was actually octagon side for it. One of the nastiest head kick knockouts I've ever seen. But she fought back from that and rebounded and won. So the girl is extremely resilient, man. She really, really is. But every question that she's asked by anybody, media, whatever, there's always this bark. And it's so much so when she won her last fight against Viviana Rajo, right before she goes to do a post-fight interview, somebody from her corner grabs her and says, be nice, be humble, be nice. Because they know her. And she's like, I'm always nice, I'm always humble. And jumps on the mic and barks again. And it's like, so yesterday, she's asked about missing weight in her last fight because she missed weight for that fight. Mm-hmm. And so she goes, look, I had my menstrual cycle that week. I was bloated. That's why I missed weight. I know you're a man, so you would never understand what some of us female fighters go through. And most of the fans in mixed martial arts are men. I guarantee you, I will not be missing weight. It happened then. It will not happen again. I'll make the adjustments that I need to make. But that's just the problem. This is such a male-dominated sport that you don't understand. And the dude never asked any of that. All he asked was, do you have any concerns about making weight this fight because you missed weight the last fight? Mm. Pretty fair question because you missed weight. Right. And you go into a whole diatribe about your menstrual cycle, which nobody asked you. And it's basically, in my opinion, it's TMI. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to hear a guy start talking to me about his prostate. I don't.
But I'm going to jump in there. Mm-hmm. I get your point. But it is something that I can tell you is significant for female fighters and weight cut.
You know what? I bet it is. But here's the thing. She's not the only female fighter in the UFC.
No, I get it. But I didn't say she was. But they all deal with it. And here's the other thing. I'm not defending her. I'm just saying that it is significant. And men don't deal with anything similar to that, right?
I understand that.
But at the same time, it's also fight week. Now, I know what you're going to say. In her case, it just might be that's who she is all the time, right? But you take the strain and stress of making weight. You take some people handle fight week differently. Some people just have different personalities, and that's how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. But it is, I want to talk about the weight cut because I've been hearing things and, have my own concerns about some of my fighters that are fighting starting this coming week. Mm-hmm. With the protocol that at least I can say is taking place in boxing, which puts a big strain on the weight cut, which is, fighters getting in town the day before the weigh-in, going through a 10-hour no contact process, no eating, no contact process after testing, which dramatically eats into their normal hydrating and weight cut routine, basically leaving it for the morning of the weigh-in. Mm-hmm. So it's like, forget about her case. Hers just seems to be menstrual cycle. She missed weight this time. Who knows what the reason is? But for all these people to be missing
Well, see,
weight.
that's my point. Let me clarify. She's not missing weight this time because of the menstrual cycle. She said she missed weight the last fight because of
I get it. I know
she's
that.
not on. She told us, which I would prefer not to know when her menstrual cycle.
Right. What I'm saying to you is that I understand
she's not on it this week.
Right. What I'm saying is whatever
missed weight this week, which was going to be my point.
How many people missed weight this week?
In total, 4.
That's significant.
That's significant.
Right. I get it. What I'm saying is the menstrual cycle has nothing to do with why she missed weight this time.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, unfortunately for her, as is the other people, this process that was agreed upon and set forth with the Nevada Commission could be having an impact on their weight cut.
You know what? I totally, that's not even my point. None of that is my point. The weight cut is not even my point. None of that is my point. My whole point about this was why it's difficult to root for Jessica I.
Yeah, no, I know. And I just wanted to weigh in on the weight on all these people missing weight.
And so this is Jessica I's most recent post on Instagram. Okay.
All right.
So this is who she is, right?
Bro,
this is how she flows.
Fighting tomorrow. It's fighting tomorrow.
Dude, she does this all the time. She does this all the time, bro. This is just how she flows. Right. And it's like, it's like she talks and acts like Amanda Nunes should talk and act.
Right.
Like Amanda Nunes is the baddest girl on the planet. Amanda Nunes is the best fighter in the world.
Right.
Period. I'm not man, woman. Amanda Nunes is my new number 1 pound for pound fighter. There is nobody in mixed martial arts who is better and more dominant. She is just ridiculous. And I'm not one of those people who say you need to be so calm and meek and I'm not that guy. See, me, I'm just as foul as you, but you ain't got no style in you. I go back to that line from AZ because I'm not saying that you got to be that way. But if you're going to be this braggadocious, rebellious kind of person, you gotta bring it, and you gotta bring it in a way that substantiates your defiance and validates you. You can't just be this throwing up, flipping the birds and all this kind of stuff, and you missing weight and giving people menstrual cycle excuses and all this kind of stuff. And then you go out here, you get a shot against Valentina Shevchenko, she kick your head into the 10th row. And you never get stoppages. All you do is you try to grind people out with these. All your decisions are super, super close decision wins. I give her mad credit for existing in this climate because this girl has been through stuff that hardly nobody most people can't even relate to. I give her mad credit for that. Like, I haven't said this before, like on air, but I used to work at a group home and I used to work with kids who had been abused, who had gone through different types of things. So trust me, I get it. I could tell you stories about things that I've been told and the files that I've read of kids that is just whatever, will blow your mind. So I get it. But it's like every single time, like you want to get behind her, she starts, like she gave this whole speech 24 hours ago, defiant about, and like she was irritated that somebody would even ask her about her weight cut, about making weight. And then you turn around and miss weight. All you had to do was say, I understand why you'd ask me that. Obviously, I just missed weight. I took whatever precautions I needed to take to make sure that didn't happen. It didn't happen again. I'm doing my best to make sure it doesn't. I know that that's important for me as a fighter. You could have easily said that because why do you have an attitude about somebody asking you about something that you just failed to do? It's like I'm supposed to take out the garbage and I don't take it out. And somebody comes and asks me, why haven't you taken out the garbage? Oh, I know that that's my responsibility. I didn't do it. So how am I going to get an attitude when you ask me about it? And especially you just asked me. He didn't even take a shot at her. He just asked her a question. And so then now you have an attitude, and then tomorrow you turn around and the same thing happens again. And one day she was saying she had I forget which win this was. She had a win, And she's in the octagon and she starts going, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You win with takedowns. That's what people want to see. People want to see takedowns. And I'm like, lady, what planet do you live on? Like, I have a full respect for mixed martial arts, every aspect of it. But you're saying that people want to see takedowns. The casual fan does not want to see takedowns. Casual fans boo when takedowns happen. Now, maybe they shouldn't, but they do. And then she's in the interview yesterday, she says, I love the fact that there's 2 straight cards with women headlining the card. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's dope. I think she and Calvillo definitely deserve to headline this card. And obviously, anytime Amanda's on any card, she deserves to be the headliner, in my opinion, because I think she's, like I said, the best fighter in the world, regardless of gender. But she says it proves that women are just as big of a draw in the UFC as the men. Jessica, you know that's not true. Maybe it should be, but the numbers are the numbers. And it's great. Amanda is the best fighter in the world. The best fighter in the world. And she does not draw like freaking Nate Diaz, who's got 50 million losses. Now, maybe she you can make an argument that she should. And I would be on that boat 100%. I would much rather watch Amanda Nunes fight than Nate Diaz with 92 losses and flipping the bird off at the screen and then selling me his WWE persona. I would much rather see Amanda than him. But to sit up here and make the statement that you say that the women are just as big a draw as the men, that's just categorically incorrect.
What about Ronda? She didn't carry the UFC for a little bit when they needed her to.
Ronda was never the draw that Conor is. Ronda was never the draw that Brock is. Ronda was 3rd or 4th. She was in the same ballpark, just a little bit over John Jones.
But she carried shows as a headline.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. But
I mean, it can be.
She's an aberration.
The right person.
She's an aberration, though. She's an exception to the rule. When you go after Ronda, everybody else, you know who the next biggest draw is on the female side outside of Ronda? Holly Holm consistently drew. She consistently drew. She has only one huge win, and it was beating Ronda.
That was what, in Australia?
Yeah, but she looks the part of who sells to their core audience. And that's what that's about. So here's the thing. If you want to talk about what should be, we can have that conversation. But don't just lie and act like numbers don't exist. Just don't do that. And then on 24 hours before you miss weight again, when you just gave us a whole speech.
How many fights on the card?
It's now there's
no. How many scheduled fights were on the card?
At first there were 10. I
mean, we're going to gloss over the idea that 40% of the card missed weight? Like, doesn't it make you like want to wonder why?
40% of the card, I guess 40% of the fights had somebody who missed weight. I guess that was because there's 10 fights, there's 20 fighters.
I'm talking about 10 fights.
Right, 10 fights.
In 10 of those fights, 4 of those fights, both fighters didn't make weight. Meaning there was a weight issue. There was a weight issue.
Not both fighters. One fighter.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, right. So out of 10 fights, there were 4 fights where one guy or more didn't make weight.
But okay, I've seen this before. It is rare. I've seen this out of pandemic before, where we've had a rash of people miss weight. I'm sure there may be some connection to it, but this is, like I said, that's just a symptom of the illness that I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about just my whole statement, like I said, was that she's a difficult person to root for, and it's always something. It's always something. It just always is something. Now I picked her to win, and we'll see if the weight cut has any issue with her. She probably needs to keep the fight standing because Calvillo is really good on the ground. She's good on the ground too. Right. Jessica's she's not a horrible fighter or anything like that. It's just that she's one of those people that when the mic comes her way after the fight, you just go, what'd you say? that's just, it just is. It's just like,
you're savage.
I'm honest.
Savage.
Sorry, not sorry. So it is what it is. But that's my take. The card was not spectacular from the beginning. Losing a fight doesn't help. But I've seen cards like this turn out to produce the best actual action. So hopefully that's what we'll see. But it wasn't it wasn't a good day on the scales. Let's just say that. All right, but let's jump into our first between the rounds.
So Brian, 2 UFC events ago, we had a fight of the night where Brandon Royval basically pleaded his way into fight of the night, right? The last event, UFC 250, there was no fight of the night. So what I want to know in the championship rounds, because you've been pretty good at this, you've been pretty good at giving a pretty solid idea of what you believe is going to be fight of the night. So being consistent with that, I want to get your thoughts on what we could expect tomorrow and what you think will be fight of the night.
Yeah. Let's get it done in the championship rounds. I think
that's simple.
So there's a few good fights out here but
you have a good sense. You have that spidey sense where you know which one's going to happen.
You look at the fight, you look at the styles, and you look at where people are in their careers. It kind of tells you a little bit about what they might bring. So we'll definitely get into that in the championship rounds. Let's jump into round 2. So we got a lot of talk about deals being done, and I'm going to get into a little bit more of this later. That is outside the actual ring, or so to speak. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury have reportedly come to an agreement for a 2-fight deal. Now, this is obviously separate from the mandatory 3rd fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. So give me your perspective on the validity of this thing, what all is connected to it. I want to know what your take is.
So first of all, I mean, I wouldn't call Fury Wilder 3 mandatory. I mean, there was a rematch clause. Wilder exercised it. Fury can't get around it unless Wilder was willing to take step aside money. And that's not happening. Wilder has exercise that option. He's going to fight Tyson Fury in a 3rd fight. Where that's going to take place and when that's going to take place is still up in the air. The idea that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua have agreed to fight twice sounds great, but who cares? Tyson Fury still has to fight Deontay Wilder. Regardless of what we think, regardless of what the fans think, regardless of what the media thinks, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Doesn't really matter. The fact is that they have to fight again. The other fact of the matter is that Joshua has to fight in between. I don't suspect if he fights, Pulev, that's going to be too much trouble for Joshua. But I still do think that Deontay Wilder, has an opportunity to beat Tyson Fury. And so this is where I'm going with this. The idea that Fury and Joshua reached an agreement to fight each other twice, it's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter, because here's what's happening right now. As soon as they announced that, and they didn't have to announce that, there was no need to announce that. As soon as they announced that, WBO president Francisco Paco Valcarcel said, look, that's great that they want to fight each other twice. However, Joshua's going to have to defend his title against Usyk next, or run the risk of getting stripped. And so what that means is it looks like the IBF is up next in the cycle of unifications, which means that's Pulev. And then let's just say that Joshua fights Pulev. Let's say that Fury, Wilder fight for a 3rd time. Technically, you could do a fight in between, but the WBO is basically saying that they reserve the right to strip Joshua of that WBO belt. Now, while boxing fans might not care, it would be nice to have a unified heavyweight champion. But what I'm saying to you is that I just don't understand the need to sign a deal or agree to a deal to fight each other when it wasn't like that was rocket science, like that couldn't happen. What if Deontay Wilder knocks out Tyson Fury in the third fight? What if? Is a Joshua Fury fight as exciting as a Wilder Joshua fight? So I'm kind of posing that question. And, I guess my main thought here is, what does it really matter that they've agreed in principle to fight each other 2 times, for that matter?
Well, I think that it creates a buzz.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is all about, none of this is about tangibility. This is all for intangible effect. This is all branding. This is all a couple other things. I got something else.
Oh, you're going somewhere with this already, huh?
Talk about this in the between the rounds.
I know what you're thinking.
I think that's what this is all about. This is all like seed planting. They obviously know. First of all, Anthony Joshua's on crutches right now. So once he rehabs that, he'll be hopping in the ring with Pulev. I think everybody knows that.
Right.
Obviously, I think people know that, Deontay's not stepping aside. He wants to get that third fight with Tyson Fury. And you'd have to believe Deontay is doing some different sorts of preparation to come into this fight to be ready.
Absolutely.
I know he is, and we'll see what that leads to. And like you said, he still got the home run. He still got the home run power. So he can make things happen. This is still heavyweight boxing. So we have to see what happens with that.
Now, did you already write about what you're going to express?
Some part of it I have, but not everything that I'm going to talk about have I put out there. So, and actually I decided to save it for this portion of it for the Fight Guys specifically, because as of right now, I don't think it has leaked anywhere else. So,
and if you're watching, stick around, because it'll all make sense when Brian talks about it. But to the casual, to the lay fan, an announcement like that is like, okay, it was a little bit of clickbait and misleading.
Yeah, I think it was definitely about some, hey, come look at us, look at what we're doing. And you're like, okay, so when are you doing it? Well, yeah, we'll get to it, but it's happening.
But you understand my point, right?
Yeah,
it could be for one belt by the time they get to it, which ultimately shouldn't really matter anyway if we can see an entertaining fight. But there should be still something to be said about wanting to see a unified champion. And with Joshua holding 3 of those belts, I would hate to see him get stripped before having the opportunity to unify.
I think that it'll take place, and I think it will be for all of the belts. As long as Tyson Fury beats Wilder, I think it'll be for all of the belts, and I think it'll be the first fight will happen in the first quarter of 2021. So and I think the second fight happens in the third or fourth quarter of 2021.
Okay, so scenario: Joshua beats Pulev. Okay, let's say Deontay beats Fury. Joshua now has to go and fight Usyk. Okay, and then who does Joshua fight after that?
It's got to be Fury at that point.
Why? Why?
Because to me.
I'm just saying why. I'm not.
Well, and then and here's the thing. I feel like, because here's what I'm reading, and I don't know. Obviously, you would probably have a better handle on this. From what I'm hearing, is WBO is saying that Usyk would get the winner of Joshua Fury,
unless Wilder beats Fury.
Right. And which he can wreck the whole thing.
Right. I'm just saying that there's
I still think that Joshua fights Fury anyway, because even if Wilder knocks Fury out, right? Fury's overall brand isn't really damaged that much because he stopped Wilder. Most people think he won the first fight against Wilder anyway. So some people will, in their opinion, say Fury's up 2-1 on Wilder. And
I would agree. I mean, that's how I saw it.
Right. Most people will say that. So here's the thing. Honestly, I almost think that it's better if Wilder wins for boxing, because you keep more people in the mix, in the conversation. At this point now, if that happens, you have 4 heavyweights that you can legitimately talk about as being potentially the guy. And that's not even talking about some of the people that are coming up after that, you know, because now you got Joshua, Fury, Wilder, and Usyk, who all have, you know, some claim to being whoever, you know. So now you got a Joshua Wilder fight that could happen sometime down the line for whatever reason. Even if Joshua beats Fury, you know, now if he still wants to truly unify, now him and Wilder meet at some point in 2021 or 2022. So to me, you just pump some more life into the division if Wilder beats Fury.
Brian, I don't think it has anything to do with them actually fighting. I think it has to do 100% with what you know and with what you're going to share. I think announcing it is like, why would you need to announce that now?
Yeah.
It's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Completely irrelevant. Doesn't matter. You don't need to announce that they agreed to a 2-fight deal, because they each have to fight people before that. And so they can fight each other anyway. It's not like announcing that they reached a deal has any real relevancy unless it was to help promote something else. Yeah, it could be it. I mean, we'll see in a second. So let's jump into our first between the rounds. Actually, our second between the rounds. So yeah, I got some information about a product, and so we're gonna string this out a little bit longer to the next between the rounds. I got some information about a product that both Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are likely to be connected to, and we are opining that that has something to do with this announcement, more than any actual in-ring action that is like on the near horizon. So we'll get into that when we get into our championship rounds, but we're gonna hop into round 3. What time is it, player? I don't even know, man. Fight o'clock, ask the fight guys, game time. Who?
It's something. It's time. It is time. Something. All right. So this week,
I threw all of them at you.
You did. So something had to be
not so much enthusiasm though.
Yeah. Well,
I'll practice.
I've learned to give you a pass.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the question that I want to ask is right now, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are the recognized world champions in heavyweight boxing.
Yes.
Of someone who does not have a championship right now, who do you think will be the next fighter, the next heavyweight to be a world champion?
Good question. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll preface it by saying this. Right now, the top heavyweights, I think we've been talking about them.
Yes.
I certainly think it's Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder. And, after that, I think that there are potential guys. Now, it's not like it's a trick question, but I will pose this scenario. If someone would pose that question and it was contingent on somebody beating one of those 3 guys, I'd say nobody. But if it was contingent on 2 people fighting for a vacant title,
right,
and then you got Charles Martin fighting, give me somebody.
Charles Martin fighting Dillian White.
Okay. Well, I would then say I see Dillian White being the next heavyweight champion. In that scenario. Okay.
Or Alexander Usyk fighting anybody.
But you know what I'm saying. So like what I'm saying is against the guys that are the champions right now, and I'm going to still hold Wilder in that group. Okay. Nothing to be ashamed of losing when you're losing at that level. Okay. So those 3, anyone fighting those 3, I see nobody. But if belts start getting vacated or stripped, And then you're getting, look, Kaunaki lost. I thought he might have been somebody that was moving toward an opportunity. I think Jermaine Franklin's too young. I'm not really sold on him. I think Usyk is not really a true heavyweight. Just telling you what I feel. Okay. I think against the bigger guys, he doesn't have success. I think that Dillian White has shown that he could hang, that he might be that guy. Then you have guys like Dubois, maybe too young.
Yeah, well, the WBO has Dubois number 3 overall.
Okay. What I'm saying is I put it like 2 answers, right? If it's against Wilder, Joshua, or Fury, I see nobody. If it's some of these guys, and because the question was asked about being a champion. We have 4 divisions.
I'm not even saying that it has to happen sometime soon. So if your theory is that those guys
for a vacant title, or is it against one of the top guys?
But with what you can actually kind of predict what might happen. So if you actually think, like we were saying a little bit earlier, that Joshua's going to end up getting stripped, then I think the WBO is probably who you're saying would strip him.
Right. But here's what I also know, because you and I saw this, that on Wilder Fury 2, Charles Martin became the mandatory in the IBF, right?
Yes. Well, after Pulev, because
Pulev.
Right.
Okay. But let's just say that Joshua and Pulev fight. Now Charles Martin's on deck.
Right.
Now let's say that Joshua is not going to circle back and fight. Let's say he goes and fights, and let's just say that title becomes vacant. Who's behind?
Why would that title become vacant if he just fulfilled his mandatory?
Because let's say that he loses to whomever. Let's say he loses Joshua. Let's say he loses to Fury.
Okay.
Or beats Fury. Doesn't really matter.
Right.
And then they want to force him to fight the mandatory when he could go on to fight a much bigger fight.
A rematch with Fury.
Rematch or even finally a showdown with Wilder. I'm just saying there are cases which we've seen in boxing where guys will then just really not go, especially at his age and what earning potentially has ahead. Guys will just opt to vacate a belt or get stripped because it's no longer about the belt. It's just all about the money. So in the 2 scenarios, but I would say that we're going to see, we'll see Dillian White with a belt. What is he in the WBC?
In the WBC,
is he the mandatory?
He is the interim world heavyweight champion.
Right. So he would be next up.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see him fighting for a vacant title. It's just my guess.
And you think you think he wins?
I think he wins. It's a guess. Yeah. I think that I don't think Usyk is going to be next. I don't think Charles Martin's. But like I said, if Charles Martin's fighting somebody for a vacant title, depends who he fights.
Right. Honestly, all of the people who I see Charles Martin possibly fighting for a vacant title, I think he loses to them.
Okay.
So, because he's right behind Kubrat Pulev in IBF in the IBF. So if Pulev fights Joshua and loses, then he's not. Even if the title is vacated, I don't know if he would. I think he would drop.
They're not gonna. Yes, he will, but they're not gonna make Martin fight another eliminator. He already fought against Gerald Washington. He's the mandatory.
What I'm saying is, if the IBF title got vacated,
yes,
but Pulev already lost to Joshua. He would not be in the fight for the vacant title.
Unless Joshua vacates it.
Right. No, I'm saying if Joshua vacates IBF title after he beats Pulev, would Pulev be in the fight for the vacant title?
Not at all. Nope.
Right. So it would be Charles Martin against Alexander Usyk. And I think Usyk beats Martin.
Okay. So it just comes down to what belt could be vacated first. Is it going to be the WBC or the IBF, and who gets to fight a different level of opposition that gives them that it could be either one. It could be both. It could happen close to the same time, or it could not happen for a while.
Yeah, I think that the my opinion for the next world champion is Alexander Usyk.
Okay.
I think he's going to be a world champion. I think he's the next guy. I don't know. Dillian White, I just don't believe in it. I just don't believe in it. I don't believe in the conditioning level. I don't believe in just the overall doing what he needs to do to win a huge fight against a big like if he does end up getting some sort of fight for a vacant title against somebody like, like Charles Martin or something, he probably can get that done, even though I wouldn't necessarily say that's a gimme for him.
Okay.
I think Charles Martin, Dillian White could be a good fight, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't have him. I have Usyk is the guy that I have. If we were talking about a little bit more time, down the road, basically we probably talking about 3 years for this guy. But I really liked what I saw from Jared Anderson. I think, man, he reminds me of a young Riddick Bowe, man. He really does, like the way he moves.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't stick as hard as Riddick, because Riddick's right hand was so nasty and the jab was so disgusting. But athletically,
he's only 20.
He's only 20 years old.
He just turned 20.
Man, dude, like I liked what I saw of that kid.
I was at his first 2 fights. I mean, he's only fought 4 times. I mean, I've seen him in person twice.
Yeah.
And I watched him train, and I mean, he's still growing. Man,
he might fill out to about 247, 250.
He's going to be a big guy.
He's
strong lower body. Lower body.
I'm telling you, man, I like him. He really reminded me of a Riddick Bowe kind of with the movement, the jab, the length of his arms. That's kind of who I saw, a little Ronaldo Snipes, but mostly Riddick Bowe.
And he was in camp with Fury for the Wilder fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And Fury raved about him.
Yeah.
About how good he was, so I think he, obviously it's a heavyweight, things can happen, but I think that he definitely has that thing.
We kind of glossed over somebody.
Who was that?
The other big baby.
Nah, no, he's not. He's not gonna. No, I don't think so.
Why?
I just don't think Jarrell Miller is. Jarrell Miller is a grinder, man. Like, as big as he is, he's not a finishing type of a fighter, and he has a fantastic chin. Though you can hit that dude with a car. He's not going anywhere. But
he's in that competitive hunt with the other names we
named. He is,
the Usyk and the White.
He's a much better athlete than you would think when you look at his body type. Moves well, has fast hands. Especially on the inside, he can put them together. But I just don't think from a conditioning standpoint that I think against a long, talented guy who uses his jab effectively, I think he loses like every time.
Where's Joe Joyce at? I haven't heard his name.
Joe Joyce is 10-0, I believe, still undefeated. I think they're being so super careful with that guy.
Good fighter.
I think they're like trying to wait out the rest of the UK heavyweights so he can like have his time or something. But I mean, that's the thing about heavyweights, though. You can wait a little bit because, I mean, if they don't hit their stride until they're 35, that's still fine.
Right.
But yeah, very interesting. I can't remember the last time I said the word interesting when talking about the heavyweight division. So,
well, look, I could see, the BKs and the Sean Singletary's right now in the chat room listing names. I'm sure BKs are all British heavyweights.
Yeah. I'm not sold on Tony Yoka at all. I do think that Guido Vianella.
Yeah, he needs more time.
He needs a lot more time.
Yeah,
but he's interesting.
Yeah, but he's not going to be the next.
No. If he wins a title in 2024, that'll be about right. He needs a lot of time. So, but yeah, it's some interesting little crop of guys coming up, man. I think we'll see some good. I mean, obviously there's going to be somebody that comes out of nowhere.
Look, I thought Kaunaki was on that path. I don't know if it was just a bet. You didn't think so?
No.
Oh, Well, I mean, I just thought he had a bad night, but I mean,
I thought he had a bad night. I didn't. Oh, put it like this: I didn't expect him to lose to Robert Helenius, but I didn't.
You like Kalnacki.
Yeah, I like Kalnacki. But I didn't expect him to lose to Robert Helenius.
Right.
But I didn't ever think that he was on the level where he could compete with the guys who are champion right now. Like, I mean, Tyson Fury boxes circles around Kalnacki, and Deontay Wilder knocks him out.
Yeah, remember that's a whole.
Yeah.
Remember, I prefaced it by saying anyone that has to fight those guys, no. But vacant titles, I think he could give Joshua a tough fight because of his style, but I think Joshua gets him too.
Right. But yeah.
Okay.
I think he might hurt Joshua though. But all right, let's jump into our championship rounds.
Fight of the night, you're up.
Yeah, this is a tough card because there's a lot of, transition here. And I really am having a hard time, narrowing it down to one fight. I have to, so I got to go with two fights.
Okay. Two fights?
Yeah.
Brian, you get one fight of the night.
One fight of the night.
Stop it. You get one. Listen to me.
Okay. One fight of the night.
One fight of the night.
All right.
Start with the two fight.
I'm gonna take Tyson Nam against Zarrukh Adeshev. Zarrukh Adeshev fights like a Wolverine. I mean, he missed weight, but he's a late replacement, and he is a kickboxer first. So this is only his fifth mixed martial arts fight. He's 3-1, 3-fight winning streak as a mixed martial artist. He brings
like a real Wolverine or like Hugh Jackman Wolverine?
Both.
Okay.
This fight's like a manvarine. Oh my God, that's an awesome nickname for a fighter.
See what I did there for
you? The manvarine.
There you go.
Oh my God. Send me my money. If I find somebody calling themselves manvarine, I'm sending you a bill. I'm gonna put my Cash App on the screen. I need my money.
And by the way, speaking of Cash App, don't hesitate to donate to the show. Just saying.
Please. I mean, we appreciate it. You see, look, I ain't even shaved. Well, I did, but anyway. But yeah, that dude, I mean, he just brings it, his overall fight style. And Tyson Nam is a veteran stand-up guy, decent on the ground, but he likes to stand and he likes to deliver the pretty shot, the pretty knockout. He fights in a very aesthetically pleasing style. I expect Adeshev to bring him the fight. So in that situation, it puts Nam in a position to deliver those types of counter strikes and things that he usually tries to set up. But Adeshev just brings such a pace that I'm not sure what happens there. I ended up going with Tyson Nam in my prediction because Adeshev's coming in late replacement. He does fight so hard. I can see him gassing. But in that first 5.5, 6 minutes, there will be danger. There will be danger. And Tyson Nam will have to be ready. Thing about it is Tyson Nam hasn't been stopped by strikes in 7 years. Okay. Last time he was stopped by strikes was against Marlon Moraes when they both were in the World Series of Fighting. So and Marlon Moraes is a pretty nasty striker. So Tyson Nam has been able to avoid that. So he's got a decent chin. But so we'll see. But I would have to say that's my fight of the night. For this one coming up. But you know what? I got to bring up something while we're here.
Tell me.
Somebody tried. This shows you the confidence that I have in my partner here. Reading the comments, and the dude's comment says, "Here's a tip." This is on one of the breakout videos that we did for the boxing odds.
Oh boy.
He said, "Here's a tip. When it says half a round, it doesn't mean 1:30 of the round. It just means it has to get out of that round." I said, let me tell you something.
By the way,
I said, let me tell you something. If Peter Kahn told you that it means half a round, and we're talking about odds, go and have several seats. Right. Because it means half a round.
Right. Otherwise, we wouldn't have half round. And by the way, speaking of that, completely digress.
Yes.
I was screaming at the television. Tony Weeks didn't even count
Yeah.
for Caraballo.
Yeah.
1 second from being over.
Somebody,
1 minute and 31 seconds.
Somebody lost their mind. Somebody was at
The
home.
body shot came in.
Tony,
The guy takes the knee. He's like, no. He's like, the over. The over's going to get, He's like, I got the under. I mean, he could have just counted for 3 and then waved it off.
Yeah.
Didn't even count.
That's something, ain't it?
1 minute and 31 seconds.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know that, I even offered links to several references, and put it like this: I had already started typing because Peter Kahn had already told me what half around means. So before I'd even looked it up for myself, I had already started typing in the comments, "Sir, you're wrong." But just so I could add some extra reference, I pulled 2 links that showed him when it says half a round. If we're talking about boxing, it means the minute 30-second mark of that round. If we're talking about MMA, it's the 2.5 minute mark of that round.
And you found him some backup to at least educate him.
That's what I said. I gave it to him. Right. But it just always cracks me up when people position themselves like they are giving you some advice and they're wrong.
It's why in boxing, you'll see when you see 11.5 rounds for the total rounds, you're like, oh, okay. I mean, you have a minute. You're basically determining whether the last 1.5 minutes of the fight is going to be where the knockout happens.
Right. If you're going to get a Richard Steele.
It's happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I've seen it.
But the odds makers do that to prevent themselves from losing because they basically want to say, you don't want to fight. You don't want to bet on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to bet this because it's going over.
Yeah. Like when Demetrius Johnson got the mousetrap submission against Ray Borg in the last round. I don't know what point of the fight it happened, but he got it in the last round. And I don't know what the time was, because that might have been one of those. Let me see what.
And didn't McGregor, was it? I'm probably gonna get this wrong. Was it Mendez? 10 seconds, right? Close. 30 seconds.
I think it was more than 10 seconds, but it was definitely the last round. So Demetrius Johnson submitted Ray Borg with at the 3:15 mark of the so if you had the over, if you had 4.5 and you had the over, you were still okay because it was at the 3:15 mark, so it already passed that. But yeah, it goes down. It happens, and people are pissed off.
Tony Weeks
on air
waving that thing off.
Chad Mendes was actually it wasn't the third round.
And you know what?
It was 4:50. It was 3 seconds left in the second round.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know why I thought it was left in the fight.
It felt like that though, and I watched that fight.
I don't know. So the funny thing is like it was the kiss of death. I'm watching the fight, and in my head it's okay, good, got the over. Body shot, wave off. I'm like, what just happened?
Yep.
That's like the pick 6 backdoor cover in football. When the team's up so much, they play a prevent defense and they just let them come down and score, or it's that interception back for the touchdown, night over.
Yeah.
Or like when Al Michaels on a throwaway field goal would say, a lot of people are going to be upset with that field goal.
Right.
Remember on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, I remember that.
Always talking to the sports bettors.
I remember that.
Going to be a lot of people upset with that field goal.
I bet. Yeah. John Anik does it for the UFC. He's always talking to the sports bettors. Always.
Why do you think people watch?
Oh yeah, man. There are people don't realize there are people who bet on these games and these competitions, and they're not even really fans of the sport. They're not. They are gamblers.
Right.
And that's it. They don't have a rooting interest in anybody.
Right.
Except for whoever they bet on that day,
Right.
So it's something, but yeah. That's my pick for Fight of the Night. Now, my other championship rounds, and I want you to listen closely here. So here's what we're talking about when we talk about.
You want me to listen closely? Or
no, I'm looking in the camera. I'm talking to everybody.
You're not looking at me?
Not really.
Okay.
All right. So, so the Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua thing, I wrote about a portion of this on Forbes and Heavy. According to sources that are extremely close to the situation, Tyson Fury is going to be a playable character in EA UFC 4. So not a boxing game,
right?
In the UFC game. Now, you might, if in case you're not familiar with the game or haven't played it a lot, you might be wondering why in the world would a boxer be in an MMA game? Well, it's happened before. Mike Tyson has been a part of the game for years. Traditionally, the UFC will go at, or EA and the UFC will go after boxers. Everybody knows Dana White has a affinity for boxing. His combat sports journey began with boxing. There's Zuffa boxing that he's been trying to get off the ground unsuccessfully.
Brian, you walk into the UFC headquarters.
Yes.
And you're met by a statue of Joe Louis in the lobby.
Yes. So, he loves boxing. And when he can find an inroad, I'm sure he will pursue it. So that's why that's not shocking. But what might be a little bit shocking is that I've also learned, and I will admit this part of it isn't as 100% as Tyson Fury. I would guarantee you that Tyson Fury is in the game. But I've also heard that Anthony Joshua is also in the game as
credible sources.
Credible sources. As a playable character. Both of them will be unlockable if you complete the career mode. Okay. So to connect this to what we talked about before, we kind of believe that based off of that information and the timing of the announcement of this 2-fight deal, that it's all more or less promotion for something. Like, yes, are they likely going to fight in the future in real life? Yes, they are. But the timing of this announcement seems to jibe really well with some hype for both guys' brands, for EA and for the UFC. And if there's a deal in conjunction with everybody together, everybody stands to gain.
And the idea of them fighting each other.
And the idea, so you can fantasize about it, and you can have the little mock fights in the game. I don't know whether or not they're going to have a boxing only mode. I've been trying to find that out. Doesn't appear that that's the case. It would be really smart. UFC could kind of kill two birds with one stone if they did that. Because there would be people who would go into a boxing only mode within UFC, in EA UFC, and they would, take different fighters and just have them compete in boxing matches. So it wouldn't even really be, we're probably talking about adding 4 to 6 months of development time just to be able to add that in. I think it would be a great extension or a DLC mode. I think people would fall all over themselves to buy that as a DLC mode. You give somebody, essentially you're selling them a boxing game for like $9.99. They would fall all over themselves.
And Brian, when does the game come out?
The game, the release date isn't set yet, but it looks like it's going to be in the fall, around the release of the new consoles, because PS5 and Xbox Series X is due to come out later this year. PlayStation 5 was revealed yesterday with a ton of games. EA UFC was not one of them, right. But that's not shocking because EA has their own unveiling called EA Play, which was supposed to take place last week, but because of the civil unrest, they pushed it back to June 18th. So they'll do their thing then. That's also the day I believe that Madden is going to be revealed. But I do have some other information about EA UFC 4. This is the part that hasn't been put anywhere.
Okay.
The career mode, from what I understand, is not drastically changed from last year's game, but the game itself is very creative fighter focused. So essentially you'll create a fighter, and this is for the ranked online championship modes. You'll create a fighter with the base tools that you have available at the time. And as you progress and as you earn in-game currency, so I don't think this is microtransaction driven. I think this is all earn in-game currency, and you're able to unlock different levels and layers for your creative fighter. So you can add these different hairstyles, tattoos, all this other different kind of stuff that you can add to your fighter. It sounds to me as if it's going to be mostly all cosmetic, not boost to the actual character. But this whole infrastructure that they're dealing with there, to me, is you're laying the foundation for esports, for this to become a major esports vehicle, which is something that I've always said is a smart way to go with a combat sports video game. Because if you want to draw people outside of that core boxing MMA audience, you got to create an esport, and you got to get people who are simply looking at it as a fighting game. Right. People looking at it like, oh, this is Mortal Kombat or this is Street Fighter. Some of us sports fans might resent that presence, but if you want to see these games made more often, you got to appeal to the casuals. Sure. And that's what that would be. So I'm excited about seeing what it looks like, especially from a visual standpoint, because the one thing about boxing and MMA games, they get a chance to kind of empty the cup from a visual standpoint, because they only have to worry about 2 characters on the screen at one time. If you're talking about football, you got 22 active characters on the screen at one time. Right. Soccer's the same way. Basketball, there's 10 active people. So visually, they have to scale back in order to maintain a certain level of resolution. And different things can go wrong with the lighting. When you're talking about MMA and boxing, there's 2 fighters in the ring, maybe a referee, and they can let it all hang out from a visual standpoint. So I expect when we see EA UFC 4 on next generation consoles, that might be the most visually mind-blowing game that we see, especially in the sports genre.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you were gonna say something?
I was just gonna say that if Fury and Wilder fight again, say, I don't even know, I was October mentioned, November?
Yeah.
Then theoretically, April, May would be a time when Joshua and Fury could fight, if that were to happen.
Yeah, and that would make sense because the games have traditionally come out in February and March. But EA UFC is not an annual release. Right. It's always functioned on an 18 to 24 month release. But we're already past that because the last game, I think, came out in March of 2018. So I don't know if they would want to push it to a 36-month release at this point. But yeah, it's also very interesting to find out who they would place on the cover, because I think it's hard to sell Conor on the cover again. Right. Because he's just been so inactive. So I have no idea. Maybe they go with a collection of people like they did before. One time they had John and Gustafsson on there, and they had somebody. Last time was Conor, but I 1 year they did. Well, it was the year Conor was on there, I think, or maybe it was another time before that. One time they did this thing where they had a fight at the end of the year, a real life fight. And it was like they were saying, if I'm remembering correctly, the winner of this fight gets the cover. Okay. I think that is freaking fantastic.
Great incentive.
I think because obviously it should come with an endorsement situation if you win, right? It shouldn't just be, the glory of being on the cover of a game that you might not even play or care about.
It's good. It's good brand value.
It's just good branding and connecting of different demographics and everything. It's just awesome. I really think that they should, if and when we see a boxing video game, which I'm going to tell you guys, I'm strongly believe will be a boxing video game soon. Yes. I'm just saying, I strongly believe we will.
Just saying.
So don't worry about EA and all of those people so much. I just strongly believe we're probably going to see one. But I would love if boxing did that too for the next boxing game. Stake the cover on a fight.
Right.
And I mean, WWE is scripted, so they can easily do that. Right. They should literally have some sort of match every year that determines the cover athlete. And then after the person wins, drop the cover banner from the ceiling. And like as part of like their celebration. And so all this stuff, confetti and stuff goes off. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. So I should be on somebody's payroll for these ideas. My Cash App. Let me give you my Cash App. Don't you think?
Sure.
Do you know how many jewels I've dropped on this show that you don't even give me credit for?
Tons.
And then they come out 2 or 3 weeks later and you act like it's the first time you ever heard them. Yes.
I know. That something like that happened recently.
It always happens.
No, something like that happened last week.
What was it?
I don't remember, but remember you messaged me?
Yes, and I told you.
And I was like, I guess. I was like,
yeah,
I
right. You just totally no sell me. Like I do my finishers and you act like it didn't even hurt. You're like,
no, but I don't remember.
I know. It's terrible.
I got to go look. But you messaged me during a fight or something.
I say this stuff. I say these things like Conor McGregor. I say these things and they become true.
Something to do with Top Rank setup or protocol.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It was about piping in. The fan stuff. I said that and you were like, I said that on the show and you were like,
come on, nobody heard you say that.
That's the stupidest thing
I've ever heard. Go find the replay. No one. Yeah. Actually, I think I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You were like,
I was like, yeah, they've been doing that for years. Whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. It's terrible.
I was like, anyway, about to stop this fight. Stop it.
Right. You better not stop this fight, Tony.
But no, you did say it.
I did. All right. Well, everybody, I appreciate y'all watching. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, and all that kind of good stuff. As always, God bless and peace.